and welcome to another Louisburgh Community TV video. Welcome to Tertulia. This is episode 24, I'm delighted to say. And we are here today just to talk about some of our books that we're reading, and we have a video, a lovely interview with Danielle McLoughlin, who has just published The Art of Falling. And we'll come on to that in a while. So at the moment, Neil, you're reviewing
The Ballad of Lord Edward and Citizen Small by Neil Jordan, who's the acclaimed filmmaker. Excellent story. Kind of weird, but there's two books about the same subject coming out at the same time. Both absolutely brilliant. Both quite different takes on the whole historical.
We reviewed that in episode 23. Yeah. We interviewed Laura McKenna, whose book was Words to Shape My Name, and it's a story told by Tony Small, who was a freed slave.
And this is the Lilliput Press issue. And it's
the same story.
Same story, but told by Tony Small this time.
And in a different way.
In a different way, but absolutely brilliant. So I'm halfway through and really enjoying this. And Breed. Yeah. And what are you reading at the moment?
Well, I finished that one, Words to Shape My Name, which was brilliant, and we did the interview last time with Laura, which was great. Well, I've started this one, The Shadowy Third, which is by Julia Parr, and it's Love Letters and Elizabeth Bone.
Published by?
It's published by Duckworth, an Irish publisher, and they do some gorgeous books. We had E. Nesbitt, who wrote The Railway Children. We featured Eleanor Fitzsimmons from that before. And we still keep in touch with Eleanor. So this is a gorgeous book as well. It's hardback, and there's some lovely kind of small illustrations in it, and a gorgeous cover. And it's actually about Elizabeth Bone, who had an affair with a guy called Humphrey House, yes. And that was her grandfather. And when her grandmother died, Julia Parr inherited a box of letters in which love letters were exchanged between Elizabeth and her grandfather. So it's a fascinating story, and it's written beautifully. I'm part way through, and I'm really looking forward to finishing that. And just some other books that have come in. We've had loads again. A Crooked Tree, Una Mannion. I think a lot of people are big fans of Una, so that's just come in, and we've sold quite a few copies already. Another one, E. Lockhart. It's got really good reviews. A lovely fiction called Again. So those two are on my pile as well.
Big pile.
Big pile. And I'm reading some other ones which are going to come out in May and June, which we'll review later on. A lovely one called Snowflake, but I'll talk about that later.
But also we have some news, Breed.
Oh, we have some news, yeah. So we've been nominated for the Bookshop of the Year, which by the booksellers, it's the Booksellers Association. They're the trade of the booksellers. So the judges are kind of authors, publishers, everybody kind of in that industry. It's kind of like the Oscars of the book industry. So we're one of 3 finalists in Ireland, in the region of Ireland, and then if we get through and win the Ireland Dome, we will be one of 8 finalists for the Bookshop of the Year in Britain, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. In the meantime, we'll go over to Danielle.
Yes, so Danielle, The Art of Falling, and yeah, you'll find out some more about the book. Hi Danielle, welcome to Tertulia. Well, it's Tertulia at home. We're not in the shop today, and we're obviously closed, unfortunately. So it's lovely to meet you. And you look lovely and bright and cheerful there. And we're here today to talk about Danielle McLoughlin's book, The Art of Falling, which, yes, you can just see here, which I was lucky enough to read. I was just saying to Danielle before it actually came out, so I was very chuffed to have read it. And it's a gorgeous book, Danielle. I really enjoyed it. I read it really quickly, which is always a good sign for me. If I'm engrossed, I tend to zoom through it. And I know it's your first novel. So you had a short story collection before, which got great reviews, I believe. Now, I haven't actually read that short story myself. So how was it writing your first novel? Was it a big shift from that collection to this?
It took me a long time to write the first novel. So I can trace the start of it back to 2012. It started with a prompt I got in a writing workshop with Nuala O'Connor back in 2012 at Waterford Writers Weekend. So it's been a long time in the making, and I think a lot of that time was due to the fact that it was my first novel and I had to redo a lot of things that took a long time. So for example, I wrote it first person and then realized that really, after advice from my agent actually, who had the good idea that it would work better in third person. So that was a big change. And I just had to get used to handling big swathes of material rather than focusing on small little pieces. But I enjoyed the novel, and I've written another one since that I'm currently working on.
Oh,
So
right.
I love short stories and I still write them. I'm very much taken with novel writing as well now. So I plan to continue to do both of them.
Good. So you started in 2012, and then how long did you work on it then until it got published? Like, was it kind of a work in progress for all that time?
It was a work in progress for a long time because I had to do various drafts, and plus I think I'm a slow writer anyway. And I was also working on short stories alongside it all the time. So I tend to work on a few different things together. So it wasn't that it was the only thing I was working
Yeah.
on for all those years, but I was back and forth to it. And there would be times I would do a set of edits and then I would leave my desk and would go to my agent or editors and I'd work away on other things. And then it would come back to me and I have more work to do on it. So yeah, it grew over the years.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I always love to hear the author's story of how they compiled it, and you can kind of tell that in the story now that you say it. It has that feel of something that was kind of molded like bread almost. So yeah, no, it's nice to hear that. And I suppose that for me the book was a lot. Well, it's about untruths, I suppose. Like, I was reviewing it for the Mayo News, and my theme of the week was about untruths and how, when we live with them, what kind of happens to us. So it was fascinating the way you wove those, the lies and secrets that we, not necessarily lies, I'm calling them untruths, that we kind of live with, that are sort of revealed as they need to be revealed, but how they stick with us and they tend to form our decisions in life. That's what I kind of loved, the way you weave that. So I suppose maybe to say some more about the inspiration, why you chose that theme for this book, or even if I'm getting that right, I don't know, that was what I took from it.
Yeah, I was very drawn to that as the book developed, and those themes came from my character and the predicament that she found herself in. So I was very much telling her story, but that is definitely one of the themes that emerged as her story presented it to me, because I think I was drawn to how some of the characters in the novel tell themselves a particular version of their lives, and they cling to those stories as a means of getting through the world. And what happens then when that story is disrupted and when it's no longer possible to cling to a particular version of events, and how unsettling it can be for people when they're forced to face a different version of the narrative that they like to tell themselves. And I think with Nessa, my main character, she has that kind of unraveling of a story happening in her personal life and in her work life at the same time. So I was drawn to the fact that she has to reassess the story of her own life and past, and what is true and what is going to come to the surface, or what she wants to come to the surface. And also I felt that in her work life as well, in the art world and a project she was involved in, that narrative was something that was changing as she worked with it as well. So it was very themes of the stories we tell ourselves and how we like to cling to particular versions and how unsettling it can be, and the ethical questions that arise when that narrative gets shaken up a bit and we're forced to reevaluate it.
Yes, gosh, it was, yeah. I mean, I loved that, and the way that you did it, as you said, in her personal life and in her professional life. So I suppose going to her professional life, I was fascinated by, by the career. Like, she was an art curator, worked for a museum, and I suppose the untruth is around a sculpture whose work she's just about to exhibit in the museum. Why that world? I suppose it could have been any. She could have had any world, but it was fascinating to also be taken on this journey of art creation and how she thought. And it was almost another story in itself, which was so lovely. Just have you a background in that, or an interest, or?
I I haven't, no, but
No.
in the very beginning, when the story started out, it came from a prompt that was a broken piece of pottery. And that broken piece of pottery was kind of chalky around the edges. There was a white chalkiness to it. And from that writing prompt, a piece of imagined art came to me, a piece called the chalk sculpture. So that piece of art formed from a prompt back in 2012. So it was that piece of art, that fictional piece of art, that informed the sculpture element and the art element through the story. Because even in the very early days, when I was struggling with how I'm going to write this story, and I tried it as a short story first of all, even though lots of different versions presented, that chalk sculpture was there all the time. So that was a constant from 2012. So that very much led me into the world of sculpture.
Yeah, and it works. That's quite amazing that a small thing like that gave you the inspiration. From that, you imagined a whole world around this chalk sculpture. Yeah, yeah, that side of it I really enjoyed. Um, and I see, I was going to ask you. Oh yes, I was going to ask you about the art. And then I suppose there's an element that I thought of, sort of redemptiveness. Is that the word? Not there's such a word. Redemption, I suppose, is more the word. That, there's so much going on, but there's a sort of quiet sort of redemption in it all the way through, despite the fact that, as you said, there's hidden stuff and then stuff that we reveal. But I suppose yeah, there's a redemption, but also kind of empathy. You're not judging any of the characters, and I loved that too. There's an empathy with them and a very real sense that this is kind of how lots of us live our lives, or maybe all of us live our lives. So I liked that side of it too.
Thank you. I like that you use the word real there. I really do, because I wanted my characters to be real. And with Nessa, there's lots of things about her that, she is flawed and she's not always likable, but she's someone under a lot of pressure who's trying to do the best for herself and her family. And I think people trying to sort out problems of that magnitude and under pressure often aren't always likable, because we're not always perfect. So I wanted very much for her to be real. And I was very conscious too that I didn't want to judge her. So I didn't want to necessarily reward her for the good things or punish her for bad things, because that isn't how life works, really. It's life is messier and less predictable than that. So I wanted her to have her flaws, I suppose, visible to the reader, but I also wanted the reader to understand her as a real person who's doing her best to survive. I think she's a survivor. She's going to get through, and I think she bears in mind, she thinks about what's best for her family, and she also thinks about what's best for herself. I did want her to be someone who factored herself into the equation, because why shouldn't she? And I very much didn't want to judge her for watching out for herself.
Yeah, yes, I get that now. You're right. She did. Yes, that was one of the things I did like about her. And perhaps in some ways it's one of the sides of it, maybe at times we didn't like as a reader, that she is like that, because in society we don't expect women to kind of be like that. So yeah, no, I get that now. Like you're saying, yes, she is, and that does come through definitely in the story. Wow. Okay. Well, I suppose we'll keep it short-ish. And yeah, that's definitely given a lovely background to the book. And you say you've written another one already, or you're just finishing or editing another one?
Yeah, so the other one is at very early stages. So I've started sending it to my writing group. So I send a chapter every writing group meeting. So I'm just working on it slowly and getting their feedback as I rewrite it. But yeah, it's good to be working on something
Yeah.
new, and I have some short stories to finish as well. So I'm moving those along, and I have lots of books to read, and I
Oh,
want to
yeah.
thank you for your very speedy service in getting to me.
Oh, I know there's three lovely books which I haven't
Yeah,
read. I'm dying to read myself. I'd have such a pile to read, but yeah, good luck with the reading and the writing. And
thank you.
we look forward to seeing you in Westport in the shop sometime, or if we're down in
Oh,
Cork visiting.
well, Westport is beautiful, so I hope that we'll, be able to get back to visiting places again.
Soon,
So,
soon,
yeah,
hopefully soon.
hopefully, fingers crossed, I will be in the bookshop in person before
Yeah,
too long.
exactly. Thank you, Danielle. I'll just
Thanks, Danielle. That was really insightful and good interview, Brit.
Yeah, she's lovely, absolutely lovely. And the book is gorgeous too. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, all these books we have in the shop, so feel free to get in touch with us on our website.
Yeah, tertuliabookshop.com, or email us tertuliabookshop@gmail.com. And we'll talk to you again, or give us a phone, or wave at us through the door or the window, which everyone's been doing. So that's it for now. Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye.